This is one of our planet's biggest rivers, yet it is still a mystery. As it runs from the heart of Asia to the Pacific, it separates two superpowers. But its sprawling network of waterways also connects the most diverse realms. The Earth's vastest grasslands, its largest pristine forests, rich with wildlife. Raw moonscapes created by volcanic fire. Steaming subtropical jungles. Unbounded floodplains and untamed wetland wilderness. All these are drained to nurture one of the richest northern seas, which in turn sends rain across a river basin 4 times the size of Germany. This is not just a river. It's a sprawling network of streams and lakes and bogs, a waterscape of continental scale, the Amur, Asia's Amazon. Impossible to tell where the sea begins and the river ends. This is where Asia's Amazon joins the Pacific Ocean, in a slow, perpetual dance between river, sea, and sky. It's the ocean's clouds that make the rivers flow. And it's the river's bounty that makes the ocean come alive. The Amur flows into the Tartar Strait, which links the Sea of Japan with the Okhotsk Sea, one of the richest fishing grounds on Earth. Sunny days are sparse along this coast, but to many, this place is inviting. Afford to abandon all restraint. Brown bear mothers keep their cubs away from the river riot. Too many big males around. She feels uneasy when they come too close. These heavyweights are smaller than Alaskan grizzlies. The males are not to be trusted. But the mother senses an even greater risk. Losing her cub from sight, even for a minute, could end in tragedy, precisely because this is not Alaska. The Russian Far East is the realm of the Amur tiger. His breakfast could well be a little bear. This wild, rocky gulf is a crossroads of water. The Amur's mighty freshwater flow blends with the salty surf of the sea, just where subtropical and polar ocean currents meet. The resulting fogs, feared by navigators, are sending massive moisture inland. Prevailing easterlies push these clouds inland for thousands of kilometers until they drop their watery load along the mountain ranges of Northeast Asia, nurturing dense woodland. The amount of water flowing westward in the sky roughly equals the amount flowing eastward, down the mighty Amur into the sea. 1 million Olympic pools per day. For the first 1,000 kilometers, a journey up the Amur is a journey south, parallel to the Pacific coast. Hemmed in by mountain ranges, the Amur is deep here, some 70 meters. In a land without roads, rivers have long been the only transport routes for indigenous people and colonists, either on water or on ice. And the Amur is not just a transit route for humans. Chum salmon travel up the main river for more than 1,000 kilometers. On the land side of the Sikhote-Alin coastal range, which is their ultimate destination. Some of the individuals fighting the current have come from as far as the coast of California. At confluence after confluence, groups of salmon leave the main river and turn into the tributaries flowing down from the coastal range, the Sikhote-Alin. Up near the Pacific watershed, these clear, gravelly mountain streams offer perfect spawning grounds. The chum salmon are returning to their birthplace to spawn. The salmon are already expected. Sex is the last thing on their minds. Literally the last thing. For salmon, sex and death are almost simultaneous. When they finally spawn, these powerful fish are spent. These fast-flowing shallow headwaters near the Pacific watershed are rich in oxygen, just perfect for eggs and fry. The females choose a good spot in the gravel and clean out the sand. Then they release thousands of eggs to be fertilized in the water. By the time the eggs hatch, the parents will be dead. The fry will then travel down the Amur River to the Pacific. In 4 years, they will be back. Tons of protein and fat, arriving from thousands of kilometers away, are a boon to the local wildlife. What a break for a brown bear mother with 3 cubs to feed. No fishing skills are needed when the river serves up salmon all along its banks. Finally, the mother can eat in peace, while the siblings' meal is anything but peaceful. The more there is to eat, the greater their greed. Many rivers from the Sakota-Alin coastal range have ancient names. Kor, Bikin, Anhui, echoing the languages of the people who have lived here for thousands of years. These wooded hills of Russia's Far East boast one of the planet's last realms of true wilderness. Paradoxically, it's the presence of humans here that's preserving the land's wildness. Their main indigenous community, Krasny Yar, lies on the Bikin River, on the edge of the vast woodlands. The indigenous people have lived off this land for many thousands of years, in a way that their impact on nature remained gentle. They are Udige, a tribe of hunters, and it is they who are making a stand against wholesale exploitation and destruction of natural spaces. Far from tarmac roads, railways and cities, the Udige are self-sufficient. Nothing is wasted. Even the wrecks of off-road vehicles have a second life as barricades against wild boar and bears. But many of the younger generation don't see their future here, and often trade the harsh life on the edge of the wilderness for what they hope will be an easier and more exciting life in a Russian city. The wilderness begins on the very edge of the Udige village, with the Bikin River as the only inroad. The misty mountain woods along the Bikin are the haunt of Amba, as the Udige call the Amur Taiga. Since time immemorial, Amba and the Udige have shared these hunting grounds. Their respect has always been mutual. This ancient culture, with its deep and subtle understanding of nature, is anything but primitive. Today, it's on the wane. But the forest still feeds the Udige. Just like the salmon rivers, the forest has a 4-year cycle of its own. And this is a boom year in the Bikin forest. The boom begins right here, in the tops of the Korean pines. In such a year, all the forest inhabitants profit, humans and all the animals. Amba always knows what's going on in his realm. And the Udige know that Amba is near, but they would never hurt each other. Korean pines have to be 100 years old to grow fruit. Each year there are some cones, but every 4th year there are cones galore. It's the delicious seeds in these cones that make the Korean pine precious. A single tree will produce some 20 kilos. That's about 1 ton per hectare. For rich hunting, the taiga depends on many animals which, in turn, depend on the oil-rich pine nuts. After a pine year, the wild boar population explodes, and so do the populations of chipmunks, bulls, and all the smaller carnivores and birds of prey they feed. Some hunters even jump the food chain. Rather than chasing chipmunks, the sable goes vegetarian. Pine nuts provide a good share of the family's income. Apart from ginseng roots, there's not much else out there that can be sold. So the self-made pine cone mill is a money machine. A day's harvest will fetch a few $100s in Khabarovsk, the nearest city on the bank of the Amur. But what sounds like fast money will have to last for a while. Laying up a good winter storage will mean lots of young chipmunks next summer. An Udige hunter would never kill a tiger. That would bring great misfortune. When the harvesters are gone, Amber reaffirms that this is his domain. Pine nuts support all his prey: red deer and seekers, wild boars and bears. There's only one big animal that's out of reach. Just beyond the watershed, on the Pacific side, the Sakota-Alin Range drops straight down to the sea. These cliffs are inaccessible, except for a master climber, the goral. Most ungulates are sprinters so that they can escape predators. Gorals are different. They move about in slow motion, considering every step. In a goral's life, there is never a wrong step. Gorals colonize similar terrain in the Himalayas and other rugged ranges of Asia. This isolates the small populations, an isolation more threatening than the tiger. On a geological timescale, these cliffs are young. Not so long ago, this coastal range was a volcanic island arch out in the Pacific. But the seafloor is gliding westward, 10 kilometers every million years, and keeps slipping under the continent. In this process, islands are being pushed against the edge of the continent. This is how the old Amur River was forced northward, adding 1,000 kilometers to its flow. The plant life of the Sakota-Alin woodlands is diverse, more so than anywhere else in the temperate zone. The monsoon sends ample rain, and the rugged land creates microclimates for both subtropical and subarctic trees. In October, many animals gather to their winter quarters. Rivers are still flowing, but not for much longer. Once the wind turns, icy polar air will rush in from the north and put life on hold. The mountaintops are first to feel the Arctic freeze as the northerlies push in snow clouds. A male Siberian grouse, taking a last stand against winter and marking his mating ground for next spring. A meter of snow is not unusual. Temperatures drop way below zero, down to 40 degrees centigrade, even in November. On the ocean side of the Sakota-Alin coastal range, winter is half as harsh, with less snow and temperatures rarely dropping under 25 degrees below freezing. The Pacific is a gigantic heat deposit. Warm water flows in from the south, heating up the icy air flowing down from the Arctic along a narrow strip of land along the coast. Sika deer come to the coast from far and wide. They are attracted by the warmth, but that's not the main attraction. The surf washes lots of kelp ashore, giant brown algae that form submarine forests in cold, nutrient-rich waters. Kelp is salty and contains many minerals. During winter, the Sika find this seafood irresistible. They know that they are vulnerable out in the open, but their bodies yearn for minerals, so they take risks. The risk lurks at the forest edge. This tigress knows the trails of the seekers will take back up into the woods. She has followed the deer to the coast, knowing they will return up the hill and to the forest sooner or later. Trails from the cliff edge down to the shore are few and far between. Harlequin ducks are winter guests from the Arctic, where the rivers have already frozen over back in October. They spend most of their time out at sea, but once a day they need to drink fresh water, so they come to the mouths of the little rivers flowing down from the Sakota-Alin range. Even a short distance inland, all the rivers are covered with thick ice. It's the warmth of the ocean that keeps the rivers flowing near the coast. Like the Sikas, the harlequins are wary on the beach. They like to be in deep water, where they can dive to escape predators. The deer only feel safe in thick vegetation, where they can hide and rest during the day. But it's on the way there that danger lurks. The snow makes it hard for deer to sprint. Still, for a surprise attack, the tiger has to get close. The sudden silence tells the survivors that they are safe for a while. The tigress eats little. 2 hungry cubs are waiting back in the woods. The cubs may look nearly grown up, but they still depend on their mother's hunting skills. Crows and magpies often give away a tiger's presence. That's one thing the youngsters have to learn. The second cub arrives. The siblings have to eat before the meat is frozen. With their primary teeth, they even find it hard to tear the skin. It will be another year before they can fend for themselves. The tiger mother feeds not just her cubs. Once the land is frozen, many others depend on her hunting skills. The white-tailed eager is a fish hunter, but the winter forces it to scavenge together with ravens, magpies, and small carnivores. Without tiger kills, none of them would make it through the winter. For the majestic eagle, such meals come at the cost of dignity. This is not the sort of company one seeks when there is a choice. For several thousand kilometers, the Amur River, its tributaries, and the wetlands are now sealed. The ice is solid, a meter thick. Before the first Far Eastern Highway was built, the frozen Amur served as a truck route between river ports, and it's a solid bridge for wildlife and smugglers between Russia and China. Winter is the time to walk on the water, as the indigenous people have always done. Going through thick ice may be tedious, but the real challenge is knowing where. And to sit patiently in the bitter cold for hours while the hole keeps freezing over. On the Amur River, people have done this for millennia. It's that long tradition, the knowledge of river dynamics and the habits of fish, which make a successful fisherman. The Nanai people have always lived off the river, eating, selling, and making almost everything out of fish, including garments and gloves of fish skin. The Amur River has fed many generations and is feeding millions today. Before the fishermen go home, their catch will be deep frozen. In the right spot, a man can get 100 prime pike a day. Some of the catch is eaten fresh as Siberian sushi. The rest can be bought in the market of Khabarovsk, where fresh and wild is not just a slogan. The Nanai, or river people, as they are called, have abandoned many of their old ways. Their numbers have declined, their language has nearly vanished. Their future is linked to that of the Amur River, where over-exploitation is threatening their way of life. By late April, nights are still bitter cold, and the only comfort is found by the fireplaces in the homesteads of the far eastern frontier. But the river is beginning to show signs of change. A strong undertow is nibbling at the edges of the first openings in the ice. Now the white-tailed eagle can reclaim its dignity. The bothersome ravens may still follow him around, but now they depend on him, the top predator. Here and there, the ice is beginning to stir as the river keeps rising, ever so gently, but with irresistible might. And then suddenly, the ice heaves and begins to break. An entire landscape of ice, several kilometers wide and thousands of kilometers long, is set in motion. The Amur turns into a gigantic conveyor belt, dwarfing all the freight trains of the Trans-Siberian Railway. strange sound of drifting river ice signals the start of spring along the Amur River. Along its northern tributaries, winter hangs on a little longer, but by the end of May, the wetlands come alive. The long silence is broken. Millions of Dybowski frogs are busy producing more millions of Dybowski's frogs. They have no time to waste for lengthy courtship. Mandarin ducks are not quite so hasty. This female needs a few reminders of the brevity of life, or at least spring. The trick is to push her under water for a while. Always works, for ducks as well as frogs. Now it's time for refreshments. In this season, it's easy to catch a frog with its pants down. The hard bit is getting it down before the next bride flies by. Night frosts are over now, but alders and Mongolian oak still keep their buds from bursting. While the sun can still warm the forest floor, wildflowers like the Amur Adonis or the boreal starflower beckon to the first insects. Morning mists drift into the dried-out woods along the river, bringing moisture. Soon, the lower Amur, with its countless islands, channels and oxbows, will be bustling with migrants, stopping over on their way to the Arctic and breeding birds that will spend the summer in the wetlands. These plains are called floodplains for a good reason. All plants and animals inhabiting the wide Amur Valley have to cope with several floods each year, and the first one comes with the snowmelt way upstream. Floodwaters lap at the banks along thousands of kilometers of waterfront and carry an enormous sediment load downstream. Flood after flood, the riverscape changes its face. When the floods recede, large sand islands are exposed. These sands have come all the way from Mongolia, from Korea, and from the mountains way up north in Siberia. This is what the Terns have been waiting for. Sand and sun is all they need to breed. In the middle of the river, their clutches are safe from wild boar, foxes, or raccoon dogs. But nothing here is ever safe from the whims of the water. Growing up and learning to swim and fly is a race against time. A matter of, God willing, the river don't rise. Rise it will, inevitably. And the high water mark reveals which clutches were laid by young, inexperienced pairs. This youngster has escaped to the river, but possibly not fate. Unwittingly, it's trespassing on one of the no-go zones surrounding each nest. Breeding pairs won't tolerate another pair's offspring in their space. No exceptions are made. Mission completed. In good years, 4 out of 5 chicks reach adulthood. Even after the brutal attack, this chick is among the lucky ones. But there are also years when the Amur keeps 5 out of 5. Deep channels between the islands are the haunt of a veritable monster. The Amur Kaluga, the biggest of several members of the sturgeon family, lies in wait for fish on the river bottom. Old individuals can weigh 1 ton and reach a length of 6 meters. Because its unfertilized eggs are a prized delicacy in luxury markets across the world, the Amur Kaluga has been hunted down to near extinction. It is now endangered and protected, at least legally. "1,000 kilometers upstream from its estuary, the Amur is not a single channel, but a labyrinth of branches, islands and swamps, up to 50 kilometers wide when the water is low. Over nearly 5,000 kilometers, no dam slows down its flow, and nothing curbs the elbow room of one of the planet's last naturally dynamic waterways. It's crossed by only 2 bridges. The bridge at Khabarovsk was built at the turn of the millennium, replacing the Trans-Siberian Railway Bridge built in 1916. The construction of the Transsib and the foundation of the river port of Khabarovsk expressed Russia's determination to stay on the Amur, for better or for worse, but clearly for good. The world's longest railway line, 10,000 kilometers, finally linked Russia's Far Eastern outposts to Europe. All the cargo, civilian travelers and troops moving between Vladivostok and Moscow passed over this bridge. Thanks to the Transsib, the old Cossack military base on the south bank of the Amur River boomed into a frontier city. When the Cossack general and governor Muravyov signed a border treaty between the Russian Empire and China's Qing dynasty, he cannot have imagined today's urbanity in the middle of the Amur wilderness. Today, 1 century after the first bridge was built across the Amur, Havarovsk is a modern city numbering more than 500,000 Russians from all over the former Soviet Union. Havarovsk is a frontier town in more than one sense. Located at the confluence of two border rivers, the Amur and the Ussuri, it marks the border between Russia and China. It also separates the Amur's lower and middle reaches. With endless pristine woodlands stretching downstream. And wild wetlands and floodplains sprawling upstream. From here onward, over 2,000 kilometers, the river itself is the borderline between Russia and China. Perhaps inspired by the way the river slowly writhes like a creature from an ancient legend, here the Amur has a Chinese alias, Heilongjiang, the Black Dragon.